Hello everyone, Dave here with some more thoughts on another knife for you guys. Tonight we're going to take a look at the Strider RC. At the time of this video, this is part of their last run, or what they've declared to be their last run of the RC. So I figured I'd take the opportunity and pick one up. Okay, as usual, I will post the specs in the description so you guys can take a look there. Some highlights. The RC is one of Strider's large folding knives. It features full titanium handles with G10 scales. Unlike most Striders, unlike I think all the other Striders, Strider folders that is, it's not one side titanium with the frame lock and then the other side being the G10. This guy, both sides are titanium with G10 inserts. We'll speak a little bit more about that. The blade is S30V. This is a rather large, overly engineered knife, if you will, or just as it's ridiculously over-engineered for just about any task you think you could put it to. It's a pretty heavy knife, coming in at around 9.6 ounces, probably closer to 10. So you're talking over half a pound of steel and titanium and G10, but over half a pound of knife in your pocket. It features tip-up carry, and let's get into it. So, like Striders, it comes pretty stiff. I haven't worked it in yet, but we'll get there. So let's take a quick look. It features a recurve blade, if you take a look there. As I said, S30V, so it's got a really nice edge to it, with particularly large belly, very broad knife. I'll show you in the comparison. It has a regrind swedge up at top, and what I found pretty interesting about this swedge is that out of the box it comes partially sharpened. It's not razor sharp like a blade, but it is sharp enough that you could cut with it. I have tested it out and it's sharp enough for that. So while I wouldn't classify it as a sharpened edge, it's enough, simply put. As you can see, it is a very thick blade. We'll show it against some comparisons in a bit, but it's extremely thick. There's the backstop there. What I also found, let's take a look at the handles first. As I mentioned, they're full titanium handles. You could take a look there. Those are some really thick titanium slabs in there. Extremely thick. Like you would normally find on the Striders, it's a thin, I'll show you in a little bit. It's a thin titanium except around the lock area. These are extremely thick across all of it. You can see here some of the titanium has been milled out and been replaced or allowed spacing for the G10 scales. As you can see, the pattern is essentially the same throughout the handle and on the scales. It provides a decent amount of grip. Nothing too great, but again, it's enough. It's not smooth, it's not slippery, it's even throughout, feels very nice. What's also a big point of interest on this knife is this thick, long titanium, solid titanium backspacer. On a lot of knives you'll see, and I'll show you, that backspacer only goes maybe 3/4 of the way or halfway up the back of the knife. This one goes almost all the way up into the locking area. And if I could get a little bit of focus on that backspacer here, it is extremely thick. That is a good, I'd say, quarter to about maybe of a 1/4 inch thick solid piece of titanium going all the way across, providing full support. That will allow you any type of leverage. If you wanted to use this thing like a pry bar, you absolutely could. Jimping, as you would expect from a Strider, both on the blade and back of the knife, or on the spine of the knife and the back of the knife, as well as on the pommel area. It features a lanyard spacer as opposed to a lanyard hole, which I particularly like and really appreciate because it sits in the middle of the knife. There's your typical Strider spanner. It's larger than on some. It's really big. Everything on this knife is just larger than you would expect on some others. Just to give you an idea, like I like to do in a lot of the videos, let's show you some comparisons. Here is regular Strider, Strider SNG, so which they classify as one of their medium to medium light folders. So you could take a look there. The RC is much thicker. Where you're going to see the comparison most is on the thickness of the blades. If you can get a look there, The RC is just so much thicker. Here's what I was talking about. You can see the titanium liner on the SNG, how, while it's already a thick liner, it just pales in comparison to the RC. It's 2 to 3 times the size, except of course on the lock, and you can sort of see there, as you would expect from Strider, both of them lock up well into the blade. They don't engage too early. On the RC, a little bit more. I found this SNG to lock up really tight and really, deep into the blade. Some frame locks you'll see engage it a little earlier, some less so, but with a frame lock, it's just solid. Another quick comparison, you've seen my other video on it, the Zero Tolerance 300, which was already a large knife. Side by side, very similar. If you take a look here, you'll see very similar in size. Blade thickness, just about the same broadness. If we take a look at the blade thickness again, just for comparison's sake, you can get an idea of just how much thicker that RC blade is. Again, the titanium on the 350, while it's thicker than on the other Strider, it's still relatively thin. Here's what I was talking about, the backspacer. As you can see on some knives, it doesn't quite go all the way up. Excuse me, on the RC, you can see it goes just about the entire length of the blade, or sorry, length of the handle. Also, another comparison, what I like. Actually, when I was looking through my collection, it was kind of hard to find a knife that I would consider comparable to it. What I did find, and what I think is probably the most comparable that I own, is this Microtech Recurve, which is actually a fixed blade knife. So the closest one that it came to was a solid fixed blade knife. And if some of you are familiar with it, the Recurve is just it's a massive fixed blade. It's heavy, super thick, it even dwarfs the RC. It's not a very long fixed blade. It's very broad, just solid, heavily overbuilt. It, however, is thicker than the RC blade, or just about the same, about 0.2 inches. Tanto grind. You can sort of see both of them feature that swedge, although it's less pronounced on the D2. But just to give you an idea, that's what we're looking at, right? So some initial thoughts. It's just, when you hold the knife in your hand, and I don't have huge hands, but it feels very solid. I don't have any issues gripping it. It doesn't feel too big. The balance, which is very important, while I wouldn't say it's 50-50, it's probably close to the mid-handle. So right where you would grip into the choil, it balances perfectly there, which is just excellent. So when you're holding it, very easy to twist, turn, solid grip, not a problem. If you wanted to choke up a little bit more, again, not a problem. Plenty of leftover space for me. It's a very ergonomically comfortable knife, even for its size. And the way it's balanced, it allows you a lot of control, and you don't feel like you're wielding like a machete or a blade-heavy type of knife or butt handle. I mean, just Strider got it absolutely right. You would expect no less. That balance is just great, right where the finger choil would be. You can hold the knife and wield it 2 fingers effortlessly. Of course, full grip. But that being said, I haven't really put this knife through any hard tasks. Who knows, someday I might. But I would have no reluctance to absolutely and positively rely on this knife to do anything I would put it to. Any type of task, any type of, whatever type of action you want to use it for, I would have no worries. Well, that's about it. I hope that's been somewhat helpful, somewhat informative, somewhat enjoyable. As usual, questions, comments are always appreciated, and I will try and get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks for your time. Have a good one. Bye-bye.